All right, you guys ready?
Yeah, you.
All right, this is to call the order, the special call meeting for the town of Silver Mountain for June 27, 2022. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll now have a short moment of silence. So we'll do the roll call. Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Elizabeth Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Vicki Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Andrew Garner.
Here.
Vice Mayor Suzanne Murdock.
Here.
Mayor Charles Haas.
Here. Thank you. All right, we don't have any minutes to approve. We'll move on to citizens' opportunity to address council. Is anyone here who'd like to address the council? All right.
Get to sit down this time.
Help yourself.
Pass these out to everyone. I think you gave yours away. It's okay. Since we're tidying up the lease at this meeting tonight, after we discovered it wasn't properly signed and all, I thought it might be a good time to just get in the record a little bit about how the MAC, the SMEPF, and the town work together. I think there's a lot of confusion in the public's mind about it. Because the MAC has been operated as a town department for so long, that I think a lot of people still see it that way, that all the funding comes from the town. So I just wanted to, I'll just read this, but I'd like this to go in as it is into the minutes also, just so it'll be a part of the minutes. The SMEPF leases the building from the town to run the building as an arts and community center, which we're doing, and also restore the interior of the building. The SMEPF does not control or ever receive any funds allocated by the town to be used for the MAC building. The town does not provide any funding for programs or interior renovations at the MAC. These funds budgeted by the town are for items such as maintenance, utilities, capital outlay, insurance, fire protection, phone and internet service, and pest control. The amounts allocated for these items are set by you, the council. The items funded by the town in the town budget are not controlled by SMEPF, nor does SMEPF ever receive any of these funds. In the budget meeting on June 18th, which I attended by phone, I was asked about these items and what they were spent on. I responded, I don't know, because these items are not in the SMEPF budget. They're part of the town budget, which council approves and is controlled by the town. The SMEPF does not receive regular financial reports from the town as to how these budgeted items are spent. Our only input to the town on the MAC budget is advice on capital outlay items and our 5-year plan for improvements to be made by SMEPF and improvements we find that should be made by the town to protect its assets. Just wanted to make sure that that's clear with everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
State your address for record, sorry.
Oh, I didn't do that today. Dick Graham, 405 James Boulevard.
Thank you. Does anyone else like to address the council? Yes.
Gail Green, 212 Grayson Road. When I saw the agenda for tonight, I felt like I really needed to take this opportunity to speak one more time, because it looks like the email that I received from Ms. Murdoch I guess it was last October, when she said, after forwarding your email to Town Attorney Mr. Harry Cash, he has explained to the council that since we have entered into a lease agreement with the Signal Mountain Elementary Preservation Fund, we do not have control over the policies of our tenant, so long as the property is not used in a manner that violates any law or deed restriction. This policy does not violate the law or the terms of the lease agreement. So it looks like that wasn't necessarily the case, and I know you weren't trying to misrepresent the fact that wasn't a properly signed lease agreement.
I'm sure I didn't know that at the time.
Yes, you did not know that at the time. But I felt like this was a really good opportunity because last October, when I sent all of you an email about the discrimination that was going on at the MAC about the vaccine requirements, I was really just disappointed and frustrated that was going on at a place that was supposed to be a community center for everyone. And I was looking over the documents that you all sent, and it says, whereas the nonprofit SMEPF and the town wish to enter into this agreement as a partnership for the betterment of the community. And so I had a really hard time when I read the betterment of the community, understanding how requiring people to show vaccine passports and requiring masks to be worn in the building long after the state allowed for that, how that was for the betterment of the community and how that brought us together. So what I just wanted to ask you all this evening is, if you all vote to enter into this agreement with Mr. Graham and the Signal Mountain Education Preservation Fund, I really want to understand or know how there is going to be oversight to prevent what happened last fall from happening again, where at the whim of, the discriminatory whim of Mr. Graham, who felt like everyone should have to have a vaccine or a mask on to enter the building, which belongs to the town and to the community and people like me and my children who have never felt welcome there now. Who is going to have the oversight there? Because I read over everything and nothing says anywhere where the town has oversight of this building, and we are just going to rent it to them for $1 and let Mr. Graham do whatever he wants there. And it seems very unfair. I've talked to multiple neighbors. I don't have my phone with me, but I have a text message today from a teacher that was who was basically fired for refusing to get the vaccine, who taught there for months and is a very qualified teacher, and he just said he wants no part, in speaking here, or working there anymore. He was so turned off by the way he was treated by Mr. Graham. And so I'm a very concerned citizen, and I want to be able to use the MAC. I want my children to be able to use the MAC. I want my neighbors to be able to use the MAC. And I don't feel like it is accessible to all of the community because of the way that things are being run. And I really believe there needs to be town oversight. It is our building. And if we're paying for $18,000 air conditioners, and if we're paying their electric bill, and yeah, we appreciate them, the work that they're doing on the building, but it is our town's building. And so it does not belong to Mr. Graham. It does not belong to the Signal Mountain Education Preservation Fund. And I hope you all will consider that, and please, if not put off the vote, please vote against it or vote for some sort of oversight from the town. Please.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the town council?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Greg Schultz. I'm at 109 Norvell.
Schultz?
Yes, sir. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but I just wanted to quickly address the issue. I don't know all the details of what's going on, but I have a son that plays piano, and we enjoy the MAC. This last year has been difficult on us, and our teacher has been teaching him outside of the MAC. But I just want to echo what was said, that this is a town asset. And as one that enjoys music, enjoys all the things that the MAC can provide and should provide, and excited about the future of the MAC. And as we move forward, I really think it should be an open place that is open to people regardless of their vaccine status. And I'm very passionate about that. And I would just ask you to consider that as well. However the ownership structure needs to be, maybe the town needs to have a little bit more oversight, something written into the lease agreement. It sounds like something that can be done, but like I said, I don't know the details, but I just affirm that after we've all been through over the last year, the dividing nature of this decision, that's a personal decision. I can tell you many, many times that, and I think a lot of us can agree, whether you get it or not, or whether you wear the mask or not, should be your own personal decision. The mandates have been a mistake. There's no doubt about that, because it's divided our community in such a dangerous way. So we need to find a way to bring this community back together. It's very necessary. The arts are just the way to do it. It's one of the best ways to do it. So I would just ask, I don't know what kind of power you have to do to make the MAC an open place, but I can definitely be one of the parents up here that says what was done this last year was not correct at the MAC. As far as the masks and the vaccine status, there's so many of us out here that would agree with you. So just one more voice that would say, hey, consider that as you decide how you move forward. So thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the council?
Can I speak one more time?
Sure. I know you want to respond, I think, or you probably want to respond to the prior comments, but is there a mask mandate now or a vaccine requirement?
No, there's not.
It's kind of a moot point.
That was put on when children couldn't be vaccinated.
Right.
And we felt that was the necessary thing to do for the health of the people who were using the MAC.
Yeah.
And it's not in effect now. And I also want to clarify, I'm not making the decisions at the MAC. That was a board decision that was made. It was not an individual at any time. So I'm sorry they've got the wrong idea that I'm somehow king of the hill and making all these decisions. These are board decisions, and we think we made the absolute right decision to protect the kids who were using the MAC at that time. So
Okay.
just want to clarify that.
Sure. Yeah, I just comment, I appreciate your concern. It's a moot point now that policy's not in effect. I don't think it's clear that, the mask mandate was a good or a bad thing. I'm not going to comment on it, but I don't think it's a clear issue by any means. So if it comes back again, we may have a reason for a discussion, but for at least right now, it's a moot point, thank goodness. So, but your other points about having some oversight, that has been discussed in the past, and we tabled, I think, or not tabled, but we, I guess, did not reinstate or fill the board and agreed to take that up at a later time. So we do have a MAC board, it's just not filled right now. And at some point we will talk about that again and perhaps fill the board and have some sort of town presence. So thank you all for your comments. Does anyone else wish to make a comment? All right. Well, we have some resolutions. First is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Faultless Incorporated for the repair and/or paving of Brooks Edge Lane in an amount not to exceed $40,215, and authorizing the town manager to execute any necessary documents in connection with this award. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
And a second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? I take it this is, there's only one bid, but I'm sure all we can get. So, any comments or discussion on this? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. All right, next resolution is to rescind. Let me get there. It's a resolution to rescind resolution number 2021-52 that was not fully executed. I will just give a little background for those in attendance who don't know what this is all about. On July 13th, 2021, we had a meeting over at the MAC building to talk about a proposal for a 5-year lease. At the end of the meeting, there was at some point in the meeting, there was a motion to approve the lease that had been passed around in the memorandum of agreement. And toward the end of the meeting, I raised an issue about one part of Section 8, a sentence in there that seemed to give blanket authority to the MAC to say, this is how much you have to pay, and we had to pay it. And so there was an agreement to amend the motion to revise that sentence to just make clear that it was subject to funding availability from the town. The motion was amended by Ms. Anderson. Dan Landrum seconded the motion as amended. Then our town attorney suggested that we also make a similar amendment to the memorandum of agreement. So the motion was amended again, seconded again by the same folks, and we voted in favor of the lease as amended. Unfortunately, the lease was never amended. It was attached to a resolution that was signed. And then we found out that the town manager never signed the lease to begin with, or to end. So we just recently discovered that we don't have a signed lease in any event. So at this point, since the lease and memorandum of agreement did not reflect what was actually approved at our meeting in July of 2021, there's a proposal now, a resolution to rescind that and to do a new resolution to enter into a similar lease that reflects the motion and how it was approved and date it back to the date that it was supposed to have started. If all goes well, that one will be signed this time. So we have a resolution to rescind resolution number 2021-52 that was not fully executed. And we have a motion.
I have a motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All right. Well, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. So our next resolution somewhere. Maybe that's just right here. Yeah. All right, next resolution is a resolution authorizing the town manager to execute a memorandum of agreement and lease between the town of Cedar Mountain and the same SME Preservation Fund for the operation of the Mountain Arts Community Center for a 5-year period. So, Section 8 was the issue. The wording that our former town manager had suggested has been added to the Section 8. Not checked the memorandum of agreement, but I think it was in there.
Page 4 of your packet there of the lease agreement. It's paragraph 8. It's subject to funding availability
Right.
and subject to availability.
Okay, so we have this resolution. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I've got some questions. So I just want to make sure we're going with these dates that are in here for 5 years, but beginning a year ago.
July 13, 2021.
Well, this has
Essentially
July
a
1st.
4-year.
At this point,
Yeah. This has July 1st as the effective date, I believe.
Yeah, okay.
I think the prior lease ended at the end of June, if I'm not mistaken, so this one would have taken effect July 1st. Okay.
So not that, I don't, y'all know my feelings about it, and I voted against it before. But I want to honor the agreement that council, the commitment council made today, so I'll vote for it today, but I still feel like we can improve upon the relationship and the agreement in the ways that we talked about in that meeting a year ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, glad we're getting this fixed.
Yes, yeah, me too. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I abstained because I was not a part of council for the deliberations on this
Okay,
issue.
all right. So can the record reflect that Ms. Baker, who wasn't part of the town council at the time, is abstaining from voting, which seems reasonable, but it passes at four votes. Okay, now, we have an ordinance of the town of Signal Mountain, Tennessee, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2023, hereinafter known as the FY 2022-2023 budget ordinance. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
So, any discussion? Thank you to our town manager and finance director for putting this together after we had a long day of meetings last week. We've taken care of this and getting it finalized. I would like, before we vote, just to make clear that we are now operating under a continuation budget, or we will until this is approved. And our former town manager had looked into what is needed to do to have a continuation budget. And he talked to the MTAS representatives, and we don't have to make a motion to do a continuation budget. We just have to continue with the prior budget, and it is continued automatically until a new one is approved, which hopefully will be at the next reading. So that'll be our second reading if this gets approved today, this current one. So there is no obligation to do a resolution or an ordinance or anything like that to do a continuation budget. It just continues automatically. So, any further discussion on this?
I just want to echo that, thank Elaine and Jim and Jennifer and Katie and all of our department heads and departments that put a lot of work into this. It's a very, I know it was a lot of work and it was a stressful way to do it this year, and we're going to move forward and make it less stressful next year, hopefully. So, but thank you for your hard work and dedication to make it happen.
I agree with that. I echo that. There's a lot to be thankful for in this budget. There's some really great stuff in there. I feel really proud of the work that everybody's collectively put into it. And I think once people look at it, they're going to see the good things in it and the hard work that this council has put into it as well throughout under the circumstances over the last several months. And you know, we've got a lot of opportunities before us in the coming year. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, if there's no further discussion, we'll go ahead and have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right. Passes on first reading. So we'll have our second reading of this at the next meeting. And
We'll have a budget hearing at the next meeting.
what?
We'll have a budget hearing at
Oh,
the
yeah.
next meeting?
Yeah. That's
A public hearing?
public
Yeah.
hearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for clarifying that. All right. So, any discussion items? No, there's no discussion items. Manager's report? We can save that for the next part of our meeting. if you like.
Yes.
Other business from anyone? Okay, I would like to mention one thing in other business, and that is, I appreciate all the citizens who've shown up today for our meeting. I want to make it clear, because there's been some discrepancy out there, that our meetings aren't, I mean, it's been suggested, I guess, that our meetings aren't available to the public. But as everyone here knows, our meetings are posted on our town website, date, time, location. There's an email blast that goes out. I think it's on Facebook too, Sam could clarify. So the meetings are posted on Facebook. I don't think anybody in this town lives more than 7 minutes away from the town hall. I say that because I've actually looked into that before. And so I appreciate those who came, but I want everybody to know that you're all welcome to our public meetings. And when you come, like some of the folks that chose to, you get a chance to speak to the council. Perhaps you can stay after and speak to us individually if you'd like, or come early and speak to us individually, except I usually get here right when it starts. But I'll stay after for anyone who wants to talk. So I just want it clear that our meetings are open and we welcome everybody to come. And thank you to those who did come, and hopefully you'll come back to another meeting. So that's the only other business I have.
I might add to that, in addition to that, anyone is always welcome to reach out to a council member directly. And I'm pretty sure this is a shared perspective with all of us. We're weird in the way we like to talk about the town. So we love it when you email or call us. Our emails are on the website, and I give out my cell phone number more than my wife likes that I do. And yeah, I mean, I think we're all that way. We love to talk to you about issues and understand our citizens' perspectives. But we can't possibly do that alone in these meetings. We do it by talking to you. So please encourage folks to do that as well.
Yeah, live streaming is something that has been done in the past, and we want to do it again in the future. And our intent, people have asked us to live stream all of our meetings, the board meetings, the committee meetings, the town council meetings, and we'd like to do that. We'd like to set the town up, and we've done that in our budget, so that it can be done easily by the person who's leading the meeting, and we don't have to have special equipment. It can be easy to operate. That's what we're looking to do, so that we set the town up for years to come, not just for the next year or maybe a couple of years, but for a long period of time. And we'll do that. We discussed that at open meetings before. We've all discussed at our meetings why we stopped and what our plan is to continue to do live streaming or have the meetings recorded and posted on the YouTube site. So that's our intention to do that, and we're working on it. And those who've been to our meetings know that. So that will be part of our budget. All right, so if we don't have any other business, anyone? All right, this meeting is adjourned, and we'll resume with our work session. All right, so without further ado, we call to order the work session for the Signal Mountain Town Council for June 27, 2022. Does anyone want to make a motion to move straight forward to the discussion items? Or I guess we can have another citizen's opportunity to address council.
Is that agenda in this packet?
It's in there.
Yes, hey, it's like,
You can go about this far.
all right, so would anyone else like to address the council? Anything come to mind during our last meeting that you want to jump up and say something? All right, no. So we'll move on to, there's no resolutions, no ordinances. We have a lot of discussion items, and we'll start with tractor repair need. So we have a memorandum regarding a tractor with a boom mower. I'll let Elaine give us a heads up on that, or get started with that, if you'd like.
Our boom mower, the big claw that comes down, that arm is broken. And so we're not able to maintain the right of ways. And Loretta did go to Chattanooga, and we're gonna be able to use theirs until we come up with a better solution to fix ours.
Hamilton County.
I'm sorry, Hamilton County. And so right now, the repair on it will be $13,836 to repair our boom mower that we have. If we look at trying to replace that mower, it was purchased in 2013. Its cost estimate is going to be about $150,000. So right now, we are able to maintain our right-of-way for temporary until we can come up with a better solution to, one, either repair or try to replace sometime down the road.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts or items they'd like to talk about with this?
What do we pay Hamilton County fees there?
It's just on loan right now.
How
Um,
long?
They didn't always say, I think we might be able to keep it, through the end of the summer.
And how often do we mow with this equipment on average? I know winter's going to be less, but
Every day from spring to fall.
every day. Okay.
We might be unincorporated or the unimproved properties.
I'm sorry, the what type of properties?
Unimproved.
Unimproved, thank you.
What's an example of an unimproved property?
They get a lot.
Right across, you can come to my house, right across the street. There's
Okay,
a
yeah.
area that I came home the other day, and it was all mowed back. It's I guess it's one of those trucks that has a mower that's like this, and you just kind of
It
go
has-
on the edge.
Yeah, it has that arm that you mow with, but the biggest part is the trimming. So you turn that arm up like this, and it goes along and trims. So you don't have all that brush coming out into the roadway that would hit your car.
Right.
You guys just did that by my neighborhood. It's fantastic. Because it was on a blind curve. It was getting very bad. It was very appreciated that you
Yeah.
do that kind of work.
So we use it, every day. We're out running every day during the summer.
So what impact will this have on our budget? Because we've just passed the budget on the first reading, and now we don't have the money in the general fund to buy a new one. Are they available now? I mean, is this something, if we ordered it now, would it come in?
It's still gonna take, probably 6 months, so if we could borrow the one from the county until the end of the summer, and then TDOT has agreed to come up and mow when their contractors are in the area, they do right up the highway. We're hoping that if we could get this during the winter, we'll be ready for next spring.
And are there services that do that? Like you said, TDOT uses a service. Have we looked at what the cost would be of using a service to do this?
I have not. I don't know what his annual cost would be on having to contract that out.
But considering, I guess it's used every day
On almost every street.
for a 6-month period or
Yeah,
something,
something like that, yeah.
probably wouldn't be very cost effective to outsource it.
And we looked at that, and we would have to get, unless somebody did it all the time, then
Imagine.
where to go.
They're gonna, yeah, I mean, how would they even estimate that bid? Like,
Yeah.
it's just nebulous, like,
Yeah.
how much, how many different properties?
Luckily, we had just moved the highway, and we were pretty caught up when it broke.
Yeah.
So,
So the impact would be the 80 versus the 150, right?
yes.
Capital wise, but then we think we can get 25 to 30. Is that if we do the repairs
No,
or
that's
leave it
just
the
for
way it
the
is?
tractor itself. just the tractor, because it's a tractor with the mowing
With the
on
mowing
it.
attachment.
It's a tractor, we think we can get 25 to 30 on that
Without doing the
without doing any
14,000
repairs.
repairs?
Because the tractor right now.
Have we already, like, started the repairs, or?
No, not yet, we haven't had approval because it'll be $14,000 we're trying to figure out what to do, we really are in a conundrum.
So is the mower or the tractor? Both?
It's a mow, it's a tractor with a mowing arm on it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like two separate pieces, basically.
So what needs the 13,000? Is it the arm or the tractor?
The arm just,
But the tractor's
attachment that holds the
working
arm onto
okay,
the tractor
or
broke. Pardon?
the tractor's working okay?
Yeah, the tractor's working okay.
So the 150 is for the arm?
No,
I think
that's
so.
for a tractor and arm.
Okay.
And I think what she's saying is we can sell the tractor and get 25 to 30 for the tractor itself
Because it's
without an arm.
right, exactly. The tractor's coming up on replacement time.
What is the replacement?
We had a 13-year life expectancy on that originally. I had sent a memo to Jim back in January saying, I don't think this is gonna last another year. This is what's happening with the mower. And, so that, well, nothing really came of that. So now I'm in a pickle with, it broke.
How much is a new arm?
It's the 13.
Well, that's to repair this one.
That's her.
Actually, the arms cost more than the tractor itself. Which is crazy. Yeah.
So but the 150 is a new arm and a new tractor.
That's a whole new thing.
And we had in the budget for like, I don't have the budget in front of me, so you'll have to excuse me, but like a broom type of attachment, is that for this piece of equipment?
No, the root attachment goes on Bobcat.
On the, okay, on the bottom. Okay, very good, that's what it was, thank you.
So if we have an $80,000 expenditure coming up, and we could sell the tractor that we have for 25 to 30,000, and we're looking at an additional like $40,000 capital outlay that's not budgeted.
Right.
Well,
We currently have approximately 80,000 in the vehicle replacement
For this
so
piece of
far.
equipment.
For this
Okay.
80,000?
We have 80,000 in there from vehicle contributions.
I guess you'd say 14,000 too if you didn't repair it and you sold it.
Right.
So that's,
Yeah.
So,
you're talking about 30, maybe 25 to $30,000 extra right now over what you would do if you waited.
yeah.
Approximately how much of the 150 is the arm? If you said we just need an arm?
It's probably maybe a 60-40.
60-40, yeah.
The tractor being 40.
How many repairs do we have to do on the tractor part
On
recently?
the tractor, I did not check those repairs. We have been having to put some money into that tractor.
Starting to get where we're starting to like,
Well, it's, yeah, because it's time to replace it, so we're needing to replace that soon.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we have a choice, really. I think they've got to have it.
I think it's a very used piece of equipment.
I mean, it's
and
a
it-
useful
and
piece of equipment, obviously.
Well, and I mean, I know what that piece of equipment did at the intersection where I live, and it's a safety thing. I mean, this is
It
a
is.
safety service
Yeah.
that this piece of equipment is performing. I mean, maybe other things as well.
Makes the highway look nice.
It does.
Yes,
But we really need the trimming. We've got to use it.
yes, intersections and that kind of thing.
I think we should go ahead and ask for this to move ahead.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Now, is that going to change the budget? Because,
Well, and I guess that's a question,
wouldn't it be
like,
better to
if
wait till the
we,
budget's passed and do a budget amendment?
Maybe
well, we
so.
can still approve the resolution to move forward with it, I think, and then you would do it.
yeah, I mean, we can still do a
As
resolution.
needed.
I mean, well, I guess what you would have to do, I guess the next steps would be for Elaine and staff to get a bid proposal on this piece of equipment, and then it would come to us,
Yes.
which would be in the new budget year anyways, but I'm assuming because this is on our discussion that you wanted a go ahead, go get a bid type of thing from us today, or no, don't.
If you approve.
Yes.
Approve the concept, yes, then I would go see, first it's final on state bid, and then if not, we'll put it out to bid, and then hopefully by the spring, we would have it
Okay.
with the delay on equipment these days.
Okay.
The only other option I see would just be to, and it's maybe penny wise, pound foolish, to deal with the arm this year. Clearly, it doesn't make any sense to keep the darn arm if you're spending 13 on it.
And
Depreciated.
And that's just the attachment for the arm. The arm, the decking on the arm is actually getting worn out to where it's almost paper thin.
But it sounds like you probably get kind of a package deal anyway, and I mean,
Yeah.
you're only gonna get a couple more years out of tractor.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it sounds like we're in favor of moving forward with that. Anybody have any contrary opinions about that?
thank you for answering my finance guy. I'm not gonna use the term coming in my head, questions.
Next item on the agenda, and we don't have to necessarily go in this order unless you want to. But next item is the bucket truck cost benefit analysis. We've done a lot of cost benefit analysis on the bucket truck. We always constantly said, come back with more information. I have a question about this. And I don't know, I think Jared stepped out, so I don't know if he's coming back. Because my question is really for him about the,
Well, I can start with something to look at.
okay,
We want to
yeah,
get it rolling. I went through those invoices for that side that we got sent, and I just kind of detailed them really quickly. And so that we could kind of view different categories. And yeah, this is just kind of very messy.
is this,
These are the invoices for the rec piece of it. This is not the Retta's invoices.
well, he had one from 2020 on here.
That was on another thing, another schedule that we were sent. So, well, finance guy always like, okay, send me the invoices, because then we know exactly what it's for. And we can tell how we would avoid costs potentially by having a bucket truck. So, if we go through them, you got a few different vendors, and this is like last fiscal year, and a couple of them were actually outside of last fiscal year. So if we want to kind of look at what's our annual cost that we could avoid by having a bucket truck. You get kind of three different categories. Rental costs, we're going to be renting scissor lifts and an arm truck. And that's, that's unavoidable. That's avoidable by a bucket truck directly, right? We're renting that to go do one holes.
Right.
So if you had a bucket truck, you wouldn't need to rent those.
Does this cover a full year?
These cover a little over a full year, so that's why you'll see rental costs in the year were $5,000, and then outside of the year, really for last year, were $1,100.
Oh, I see. These aren't.
Now, what you see on
Chronological
that
order, man.
What?
They're not in chronological order.
No, they're in the order that we received them, so that you could kind of go back and forth.
Okay.
If you want to look at the invoices. So that's those, and judging by like some of the statements in here, that last year was maybe a little bit of an irregular year in terms of replacing or in terms of civil rental costs, because we had some discrepancies on timing and we were renting things for 2 weeks, and Jared can clarify this, instead of
a day, well, more often than probably we normally did, so that 5,000 might not be
That's in.
a normal yearly cost,
Is
might be
that-
a little high.
When you say in year, is that 2022?
The budget year, yeah,
Budget.
this budget year that's ending in a couple days.
So you have last year and in year, so you're talking about last.
Yeah, so
Budget.
5,000, last year are the two invoices that are, 5/13/21 and 3/17/21.
Okay.
We want to kind of get some kind of estimate of annual cost. So then the other category is electrical. And when I look at those invoices, I'm like, I don't know, and this is something Jared can speak to, that we can do any of this work. There's one that had, the $1,200 one had relamped 3 pole lights, but it didn't split that out from replace the ballast. And I'm not an electrical person, I don't know what that means, and I don't know if that's something a town staff person could do, or whether we'd be hiring Lawson Electric anyway. But the THI electrical ones seemed related to changing over electrical to prepare for LED lighting on the tennis courts and some other things, and a lot of electrical work or materials like the lights that we need to replace, which we have to purchase anyway, whether we have a bucket truck or not. Doesn't come with LED lights. So to me, almost pretty much all of that electrical, we would still have to spend. And then the last piece is the trees, and that's something Jared can speak to. I don't know how much of the tree work we could do ourselves with a bucket truck. 8 dead trees, I don't know that we have the staff or timing to go take those down top all the way down and avoid that $3,600 cost is the larger of the two on the tree piece. So to me, it directly avoidable 5,000. And from Loretta's schedule is about 5,000 a year directly avoidable too. That's 10. And on average for the useful life of this, it's costing us 20. So unless there's something we're missing here, this thing doesn't pay for itself.
Right.
I can speak to a couple of those.
Yeah, please.
The vast majority of the trees that, if we had a bucket truck, the one we purchased from TPA, I believe it was, we can do ourselves. If we have the availability, we can drop them, we cut them up, put them on the 550, we haul them over to the dump, and boom, it's done. So most of the trees, with the exception of a couple, we can handle in-house. As far as the electrical component goes of it, Hayden Hicks that works for me, in 3 weeks he'll be completing his electrical license, and he is certified as a journeyman 3, so he can do any ballast, he can certify any job up to $25,000. He can go to town hall and get a permit, certified, he's legally licensed. Will be in about 3 weeks. He's taking his state exam next week. So that's kind of gives you a better idea where that is.
So, we've got a number of things from THI electrical contractors. Are these all things he could do?
Every one of them.
Every one.
Yep.
And some of those, though, correct me if I'm wrong, were like a rare one-time thing where we went and redid all the tennis court.
The tennis court converting to LED
Yeah.
was a one-time issue, but all the other lights that we have throughout town are all halogen lights that we have to either have THI come up and do them, and they charge us for the rental truck, or we call Boston Electric and they built in the cost for the bucket truck.
How much of our lights across all the facilities are converted to LED?
Right here.
That?
Yep. The rest are all halogen. Oh, I take that back. The tenant, 2 years ago, the basketball and tennis courts behind the old pool, country club, they're all of our ball fields and the rest, they're all halogen.
What about the lacrosse field? It says that LED was changed out on all these invoices.
Those were just, we never had halogen. We had the poles that were there for years, and then we had the LEDs that were installed there. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to understand going forward, like
So I'll give you an example.
what our savings are.
No.
Like, because these invoices, we cannot, one-time projects to switch over to LED, we're not gonna be doing that again. So we're not gonna have savings in the future from having an electrician that can get in our own bucket truck.
No, but a one-time project that Marion Driver with softball fields, we had to take that out of grant. That was $280,000.
But that's done.
No, that's housing. We took that out of
Okay, all
grant.
right, so that's what I wanna see. If we bid that out to change those LEDs over, those over to LEDs, what would that cost? And then more important is not these one-time projects, but the annual expenses of changing the lights, the LED lights. What will that be? Because the other thing that's happening is that as we change LED, those last longer, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like significantly, so we should be changing less.
absolutely. So that's one of the things that we wanted to do for years. Down here at Stockton Rutledge baseball fields and Marion Driver softball fields, to change these out, well, these costs are a little bit more now. Down here, about $120,000 if we were to change them to LED. Over there, about $280
Yeah,
to change them over to LED.
yeah.
So, but as it stands right now, they're
But see,
housing
the- you
and
know-
they low.
The fact that we have an electrician, which is awesome, really cool, great idea, and it's gonna save a lot of money, I
Yeah.
would imagine. Going forward, we don't save the whole electrical invoice, because that includes materials, it includes a lot of things.
Sure.
But we also, it still might be cheaper, what I'm saying is for us to, because of the, more not constant need like the mower, where we're using it every day, the less frequent need to go for him to get up there and change out LED bulbs or whatever, it may still be more prudent for us instead of buying to go lease the equipment as we have been doing. And that expense will go up a little bit as we do these projects and as we were to place LED bulbs. But the fact that we have an electrician doesn't mean that the bucket truck makes more sense, because that is irrelevant to the savings of leasing the equipment as we need it versus spending this large amount of money.
So I guess it's the frequency of it, how often. The adult baseball or the adult softball season just cranked up the Tuesday after Memorial Day. I can't remember that day, and we had all the lights burning. We just had Lost Electric come up, and that was a $2,600 bill. And we've now got 3 out, and one of the scoreboards is messed up.
Yeah.
So, so now we're just, another $2,600, and then they'll go out again. And, so it's just kind of,
Yeah, but
But it happens
when he gets his
everywhere.
license and he goes to fix those in the future, right now we gotta go pay the toll to
Yeah.
Lawson Electric or whoever. It's still the decision to buy this bucket truck really has to, you're right, to do with the frequency of how often we're using it. And the switch to LEDs is a really smart thing to do from electrical cost, but also because of the lifespan of the pole. So we're gonna replace less often once we get through with this project. So I think it's probably over an 8-year period. I still don't see evidence to me that says this is a good cost for us to spend. I mean, I think we got tons of other needs elsewhere. I'd love to see us deploy the money elsewhere if it doesn't make sense, if we don't save more than we're gonna spend on this by having it.
like I said,
That's my feeling. I
Yeah,
don't.
when I was looking at the numbers, I felt like the annual cost of hiring out the services wasn't reaching the annual cost of paying for a bucket truck. But I kind of feel like it's something we keep our eye on. If it turns out we're using bucket trucks more and more, then maybe, if we're gonna get to that point where we do need to buy one. But right now, it doesn't seem like so far in the last, based on the data, at least.
I'm sort of with you on that, I think we have more needs that outweigh. this
Well,
one.
and it's not, it's even that, and I totally agree with Charlie, and like, that's, when I look at these things and other organizations, it's like, let's set like this budget year, really make sure we're we're renting it when we need to, a scissor or a bucket or whatever, and then we're keeping track of that. Let's use this year as a measurement period to see where we are. And then try to isolate those things that are one time, that are, hey, we got up on there and we changed over to LED. Well, that rental doesn't continue to happen. That bucket truck need doesn't continue to happen. But hey, we had to replace all these poles, we had to go trim all these trees and get caught up, or we had to cut some trees down. Let's rent the equipment this year and see what that cost is and evaluate it, would be what I would say.
I agree. I think given the challenging financial landscape everyone's in, I think it makes sense to wait and collect data so that we do know that we're doing the right thing for the taxpayers, that we're not spending money that we don't have to spend.
I recognize that it's some trouble to have to rent, to go through the process of renting them, but I think that we can rent them. It sounds like we can rent them, and it's not like we're being, we can't do these trimming things because we can't get the equipment. And we do have a lot of other needs to address, and maybe we just keep our eye on this one over the next year and continue to collect data and see if it becomes a situation that we really need to move forward with.
And then as far as the vehicle replacement fund, I would say we keep budgeting that and planning to fill towards the project.
Is it being funded?
I don't think it is.
The bucket truck isn't being funded anymore. It's through the vehicle. It is.
But the replacement cost has been so low.
It's very low, it's like
Oh,
60 or
yeah.
something.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I say, is let's just keep going on that, so we've got something banked for next year. Once we get that good evaluation period, we can really make a better judgment of, this is what we could actually directly replace by having a bucket truck. And really want y'all to think about that as you're going through the year, like take invoices right on them, like, hey, okay, we paid the tree service to go do a bunch of these trees. We had the folks to do it, and we could have rented a thing for a day for $600. And so the difference between the 600 and the 4,800 was really could have been our savings if I had been a truck.
I would like to say that I did not put money in my budget to rent for that much rental for a piece of equipment.
Okay.
Okay, so we could handle that in a budget amendment.
And I just did one when in an emergency, it's so necessary. You can't run and rent a truck when you've got trees down on the roads and can't do emergency vehicles.
What would be a situation where we need a bucket truck in an emergency and we aren't calling the tree service?
Well, when we had the tornado up here, there was trees down or covering the road, and putting it out. It was a mess.
But if they're down, do we need a bucket truck?
Well, if they're leaning on a tree, and all that can really, it took a lot of work.
And we just had a couple, what was it, Loretta, 3 weeks ago, over on Green Gorge.
Hungry Gorge.
That were in the park, and Loretta's
Leaning.
tree budget was exhausted. One had fallen and was leaning the other tree, and the other one was crossed completely over it. And that was, I can't remember the exact cost.
Was that back in there or
No, it was right over the road.
over the road?
I mean, it was,
So I'm
It's
saying, let's rent what we need to or pay the tree service to do that and find out, track those costs for a year. I know it's not the easiest way to do it, and I appreciate y'all working with it, but if we find out in a year it costs us $30,000, kind of on that would be the average continuing cost, and yeah, let's do it, let's buy it. But if it's more like this 10 that we're seeing, then let's keep renting and keep paying tree service. Because the economics of it, like, to me, are different from the tractor. The tractor, you're like, I use it every day and so does it make sense for these super expensive assets for us to own as well? The economics typically are gonna work out when we're using it every day, yeah, it makes sense. because you're gonna pay some profit when you hire somebody else. But if we're using it once a week or less, on average over a year, that tree service that Evans did, yeah, they're having to pay their labor and they're having to make some profit, but they're using it every day. So
In
they're,
the summer, we use that bucket truck almost every day. We have mowing, brush, and trimming on our schedule every day.
How long have we been without the bucket truck?
It's been like 4 years now.
but it's like, when I looked at the data, even the years that we had it, we spent more on tree service back then. So I'm just, I don't see the expenses to prove it out. And we should be we should be taking a scientific approach to these things as much as we can. And so unless we can see the invoices, the expenses that prove it out, well, we should hold off. So let's prove it out this year if that's what happens, right? I mean,
I think
don't go crazy for fun of it, but
I think to Loretta's point too, obviously not this year, but maybe next, get with Jennifer and look at putting a line in it for rental services,
yeah,
which I don't have,
the
but
best way to
everything
track
that I get it through, when I purchase it, it goes to repair, maintenance, ground improvement.
Mhm.
So that exhausts that entire line item. So then I have to,
Well, and may
Pull from
require like a separate tracking sheet, because obviously we want it to line up to how you budgeted it, and some of it might be ball fields, and some of it might be
Sure.
tennis and all that stuff, so I don't wanna screw any of that up for Jennifer. We may just need to, like, as you're sending it in, tell Jennifer, like, hey, I marked this up, this is one of those bucket truck type items, put it in keep it in the special folder or whatever, so when we look at it next year, we're getting good tracking and information.
All right, well, I do appreciate you guys
Yeah.
working on that, working with us on that. I also just want to thank you and Hayden Hicks for having the initiative, I guess, to go get an electrical license, and it'll really help the town. So I appreciate you and him for doing that. So thanks, and let's keep our eye on this and keep looking at it and see where it goes. Okay. The next item on our agenda is the pumper truck lease and purchase options.
So Eric, yeah, if you could please. Eric, got some lease options available that I'd like him to discuss, because that had come up in our last meeting of the budget.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask the record to reflect that I'm leaving at 7:05, for presentation, I need to get taken care of. So thank you.
All right, let's talk about the pumper truck.
You're at the budget meeting, council had asked for some options, and I indicated that there were a couple different options. One was to look at a stock unit. Vendors have units that they build and usually make available to dealers. Unfortunately, this year, the stock units are flying off the shelves because delivery times are so long, 24, 26, 28 months. So I found one, and I indicated that it's a little more truck than what we're looking at. The price for the stock unit is $899, $948. And they don't, I have a typo there and I apologize. They don't do prepaid discounts on stock units. It's just paid upon delivery. But all the other things apply. You asked about other lease purchase options. So these sheets that are with it are based on, obviously it's based on the term of the agreement and the purchase amount. So the purchase amount can be adjusted if you down payment, how much you want to down pay. Some places pay for half the truck and do a lease purchase for the other half. Some don't do any, they do the whole amount. Obviously, there's interest on these, like with everything. I don't know why they call them lease purchases, because basically you're borrowing the money from this is from Oshkosh Financial, who this was from, who does the lease purchase on these. But at the term of your lease purchase, the truck's yours. They do have lease purchase agreements that you can actually turn a truck in at the end of the agreement and buy a new one, but the cost was ridiculous, so I didn't even bring this to you. It's just, you pay more than the truck's worth to lease it, say, for 5 years. And that's just not a good, for us, it's just not financially sound. It's just not a good thing. So anyway, these are just different amounts to kind of reflect what a annual payment would be based on a term, 3, 4, up to 15 years. Wouldn't suggest on going out that far, since the truck will be wore out before that.
The expected useful life is 12?
Well, really, it's suggested is for a pumper, 10 years front line, 10 years reserve.
Okay.
So you can keep it reserved. So 20 years effectively, but 10 years. Now a ladder truck, that's a little longer, you can do 12 to 15 years front line, and then put it in reserve for another 8 to 10. So 10 years is, front line is what we would be looking at. But you get really 20 years out of use of your truck, because you can use it as your reserve apparatus after that. So these are some options. I did talk to some other vendors, see what they had out there. And actually I was with several fire chiefs last week, and asked them, a lot of, like City of Mobile just bought some new apparatus, and I asked what you pay for those. City of Orange Beach just bought some, so I was able to ask, and prices are consistent with what we're actually, I mentioned what this one that we spec'd was, and the chief I was talking to he was a Tennessee chief, goes, well, that's pretty good, I just bought 3 of them, paid $877 for them. So prices are just like trying to buy a new car. So those are, you guys, you folks had asked for some further information and some options. And again, the lease purchase depends on the actual cost of the apparatus, the cost or the payment of a down payment if you wish to do that, and then term that would look palatable on an agreement. Or the other is, if it was purchased outright, you pay, you can either pay for it up front and get a discount, you can pay 50% and get a discount, you can pay for it all at the end when you pick it up and you don't get a discount. And that's basically, it's economics on the vendor's part, because they're not using their money to build your truck, they're using our money to build our trucks. The reason they can offer those incentives on that.
The payment estimates that you provided, these payment options, where is that from? Is that from a vendor?
The lease payment?
Yeah.
It's from Oshkosh Financial.
Okay.
They do fire truck leases.
Is that negotiated through the kind of like state contract
It's,
that you're purchasing?
they do, there's a national consortium of bidding, that's where it comes from. And these prices, I mentioned that it's from the HGAC, that's what we bought our last 2 pumpers on. It's a competitive bid process, but it's on a national basis. Basically, you get your good pricing based on volume, because they can guarantee X number of units, so it's a bigger discount. So for smaller departments, it works great. We're not buying multiples of trucks, so we rely on these to get our best prices.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like this is an estimator that you can kind of put in different factors and get information.
Right.
And so when you said loan amount 815, 850, 900, 950, you're just assuming that a truck's gonna cost a certain amount, you're saying this is how much we're gonna pay on it?
What our vendor did was he took just these four numbers, and to give you kind of an idea of what estimates on. It didn't take into account, let's say if the 850 number, but if we wanted to pay 50% of that down, obviously that would go down, so everything would be adjusted for that. So
Right.
there's those options.
So it's not based on a truck being available for 815?
No, this isn't based on any availability.
Okay.
So
That's
this is
how
just
much you're borrowing.
right.
So, do you know if these annual payments are due at the beginning of the year? First, like right when you get a truck, you pay, for example, $290 on the 3-year,
So
15, or is it at the end of the year?
we can set that term. I did ask him, so the
What
first
are
payment
these for?
is not due until you take delivery of the vehicle. So you don't have to pay on it until you take delivery of the vehicle. And because all they deal with is governments, they usually base the payments on budget years.
Okay.
So it would be, let's say the payment would be due in August, because the new
I'm
budgets.
trying to figure out what their rates are effectively here. And if they're great, if that's like 850, they give us at 815, we buy it, and then we pay in a year. Those are actually really great rates, but they're horrible because it's annual. If we're paying that with the 815 right at delivery, and so as they adjust it, these will change based on when you plan on paying. So
Right. I did a little bit of math, and because I wanted to try to figure out what an interest rate was.
Mhm.
And so I took just a couple of them, as you just did, the 815, and if you look at 3 years at 290, you're still paying several thousands of dollars
Yeah, I mean,
in interest.
the rate.
But I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't think I actually got a good idea of what a good rate was.
Like on that one, if it was end of year, it would be a 3.4%
Right.
interest rate, which is super competitive right now.
And
But if it's beginning of the year, it's horrible.
I can say I did one of these back when I was in Illinois. It was on a volunteer department that I was president of the board for, and we couldn't go out and buy back during that time. The truck we bought was like $450,000, and so we did a lease purchase for 6 years on it back then, and we made one payment. For some reason, we picked every April. It was our clerk decided when she thought the best way to make the payment was, but we did it every April.
So what I would just say on these is I would give him like a specific hypothetical. Tell him, all right, starting in our July 1st budget year here, we're gonna have it in 2 years. So we have the truck then, and what would our payments be if we paid a year from then, and a year from that, for all these scenarios?
I can use the numbers that he gave us, the actual quote
Okay.
for that. And I guess, do you want me to use that full amount and not, so you would have, or would
Yeah, I
we
think,
want
I
to
think
do
so, because what I've seen
anything
between
down?
the amounts is the rate does not change.
Right.
So, we could,
I will,
the amount we figure out that we're comfortable with down or not is kind of a secondary question if the rate doesn't change. So, The rate changes by time period, you can see, but I would just, give them a real specific, like, or you can just say like, hey, if we bought it today and we were paying on all these different schedules in 1 year, and 1 year from now, or do we have to pay something today? You know, like how does the payment
How does
schedule
that-
actually work timing wise? I think if I'm making correct assumptions here, it's like really good interest rates and actually
It's-
better the longer time period. you use.
Didn't you say that the payment's not due until you take delivery?
Take delivery.
Yeah, but,
So
okay,
if
so
you
when we get the
if you order
truck,
it now and it takes 2 years to get here, and then your first payment is in
yeah,
2 years.
but we receive the benefit of the financing, not today, but in 2 years.
Right.
Right, if we don't do the prepay option, which the
Right.
prepay option's not very good, so we receive it then, the benefit of $863,000. But if we make a $302,000 payment on the same day, we get a horrible interest rate, because then we really got a 2-year loan.
Right.
But if we make $302,000 payment.
Oh, I see.
And, see what I'm saying?
I-
A year from 2 years from now, in 3
Right,
years,
that's 3 years.
it's
I
really
think-
good financing. I think that's the way it is, but I don't know that for
You
sure.
are correct. He did say, what I meant, after, it's due a year
From when you
from when
receive.
you take delivery of the truck.
Okay, then these are really good.
But I can, so you'll have a good answer. I will use this 863,800 number and have them see if they can do some good,
Yeah.
a solid number for
Yeah.
us, so we have,
Mhm.
I think this is good information, but we can have super accurate information. It's a lot of money.
So,
Yeah.
It's a
the
lot of money.
prepay, I'm seeing kind of benefits us at 2.4% interest rate, and I wouldn't invest money at 2.4%, so.
All right, so we can,
I don't think the prepay makes sense, and it doesn't beat out the rates you're getting here, so you wouldn't finance it today and start paying just to get the prepay, which they'd be really stupid if they offered that. But some of these are kind of attractive, and I think we should be considering it, like 3.1% on the 10-year. It's actually getting lower the longer you go. I don't want to go too much longer. You don't want to go longer than useful life. That's just.
and one thing from, I think, not speaking for Jennifer, but from Jennifer's standpoint, that would be easy to budget for, because we know exactly every year what we're budgeting for, so.
That makes sense.
And to me, like from a taxpayer standpoint, and if you can get a really competitive rate like this, I know not everybody agrees with this, but vehicle replacement funds is good, but it's a super, super conservative way to budget, and you're actually paying for things today with the taxes of people that have moved and current residents, but also people that have moved and maybe even passed away, and you're using their tax dollars to pay for benefit to taxpayers today, whereas if you do this kind of financing, you're using today's tax dollars to pay for today's usage and assets. It's kind of equitable in that sense. Sorry, that's the finance guy. Looking at how we receiving funds and then using them in the same year for the benefit.
But you also pay for that.
You pay a little,
You pay.
a small price, yeah.
Price.
And
But
this
with
is-
inflation, it's like, yeah, I mean, 3%.
I mean, we're continuing to put money into the vehicle replacement fund. So if we were to make our first payment in 3 years, we would have 3 more years.
Well, I think what you would kind of do is change the policy on this piece of equipment. If you know you need it, you know you're going to need it every whatever cycle. You would really just be putting into the vehicle replacement fund any adjustments to fund what you know it no longer costs $863, it now costs $1 million. So you just be funding that difference.
Right.
That was a discussion point. You get a bunch of fire chiefs in a room having dinner, and we were talking about trucks. And I had chiefs from Tennessee and outside Tennessee sitting there, and we were talking about this and how this the increase we've seen this year, 11-12% just this January. One of the chiefs said, he goes, by next year this time, a pumper could be $1 million. And we don't know that. Vendors aren't gonna, we know there's gonna be another price increase this year sometime. So everybody's trying to lock in prices now, but I will get you solid.
Do we have to make the decision on financing until now, or do we figure that, can that be a decision 2 years from now? Not that I want to kick it down the road.
It's a great question. I mean, I know we can, if
Actually, you probably want to lock in this rate.
Right, as soon as we place an order, we would lock in the price of the vehicle. So I guess how it was actually paid for when it was delivered would be
You could
a
lock it in
decision
now, or you
at
can
that time. I will find that out also.
Um,
It's becoming, over the last 5 years, maybe even 7 years, the lease purchase options for cities for large price options, because of the ease of budgeting, has become very popular.
And one more question on that piece is, it is lease purchase. So there's something in the contract that we purchased for at the end. Is that $1, or is it?
Usually
It's usually like $1.
It's usually
sometimes
$1.
it's like, oh, well, that's $10,000.
I remember when we bought the one I was referencing before, we had to do a check for $1.
Yeah.
The paper cost was $1.
Okay, so it's $1.
But then it's yours.
Okay. All right, so that's different from kind of understanding the need of it, which I know we currently have some trucks that are getting older, but just kind of explain to me, kind of a dumb average citizen that doesn't understand fire. We've got 2 other apparatus that pump, stupid,
Right.
the ladder and the other engine over here. Why do you need a third?
Basically, so the Insurance Services Organization, ISO, which we all
Mhm.
remember the ISO, they rate your needed fire flow. So what they look at is, not only for us, they looked at some residential structures because of the size of the residential structures, but they look at your size of some of your commercial structures, and they distinguish what's called a needed fire flow. Okay, that needed fire flow is done in gallons per minute. And for us to meet, which that's a huge portion of our rating, the needed fire flow, basically we need three trucks that pump to
And
meet our
if
needed
you,
fire flow.
let's just say you did go to 2, or kept the older ones and all that, and then one, eventually you're at 2 because one's gonna break. What would that do to the rating? Or is it you don't even get rated because you don't have enough?
No, you would get rated, they would just degrade our rating. Call it.
If we lost
go
one,
from
where
1
would
to
we,
10.
where would we go to?
Or
You know?
there's degrees in between that, right?
We would probably go back to a 4 or 5. Probably a 4 at least, if not a 5
Who does the ISO rating?
They're
Is it ISO itself?
itself. And actually, they've changed it's still ISO, but it's another, and they're insurance company driven, that's how they set your
Yeah,
insurance rates. And
commercial rates.
it's noticeable as you get, like, we're looking at, we have a good department, we have 2. When we were at 5, I would say some of your, like Pruitt's and some of your other places probably noticed a significant decrease in their fire insurance.
When were we at 5?
In 2013, when I came, we were at 5. We got re-rated in 2020. We were at 2. Now we were re-rated in 14 because that was 13 was at the end of our cycle. And so, right about 14, 15, we got re-rated. We were able to make a few changes, improve some things, and we went to a 3. And then in 2020, we were able to gain a 5 or a 2. from a 5, so. So we've progressed nicely. They've all put hard work into it. It's hard work. It's to get there.
But that's a major component.
Is the water department part of that, or is it just?
Yes, they are.
My understanding is water flow is a big part of the rating, so
Right.
that's water department, or?
Well, your ability, service delivery, the system, you know, your maintenance, flushing hydrants, flow testing hydrants, be able to deliver system. And I'll say that one of the things that we didn't get points for this last time is, which you're gonna talk about tomorrow night, is an alternative water source. That would help tremendously. We did well, the water system did well in our last ISO grading.
That our
So,
one lone water source
it
goes
will-
out, it gets real tough to fight fires.
It will be better if we had, but that is one of the grading criteria is water's part of that. They look at your ability to respond to fires, the number of people you have on duty. They call it your deployment strategy. That's one of the reasons Station 2, one of the reasons we got it 2 is because of Station 2. I mean, before, if we were going to the high school, we were 10 minutes from here. And now we can be there in 5. And that's a big deal. What they look at is your ability to mitigate a problem before it gets too big. And we're lucky enough that we don't have any super huge, large fires. I mean, we have occasional, our share, but most of them we're able to keep small, you know, kitchen fires, bedroom fires, that kind of stuff. Keep them room content. We had a basement fire not too long ago. You know, the one we had in Windtree was all the way to the back side of Windtree. If Station 2 wouldn't have been there, it would have been extremely significant. So they got there within 3.5 minutes and
But the major, I guess that's part of that, big part of the rating is that typically, so correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the major, big scary things that would be commercial.
commercial properties.
And that's
Correct.
why I haven't, like your more pumps, it's more flow or whatever.
It's more fire flow.
Yeah.
And like the ladder truck, because we have buildings, when we even have houses, they look at commercial properties, but even houses over 3 stories tall, that's the reason you need a ladder. We use it. It's, and then reserves, we talk about reserves. They want to make sure you have the ability, should you have a truck go down, to have one put in its place. That's why they say require, to meet the standard, you have reserves. And we're lucky enough to be able to have those. There are
We have how many frontline trucks and how many reserves?
3 frontline and 2 reserves, which is fantastic.
Frontline are 2 engines and the ladder, and then the 2 reserves are 2 engines.
A ladder
A ladder
and an engine.
Wait, 2 reserves or 3 reserves?
2.
All right, I wrote down 3.
1 ladder, 1 engine, and then 2 engines and a ladder is what we run frontline.
And what would be the other effects if you went, you just had 2 pumpable frontline trucks? ISO goes down.
I don't know it. Well,
Or up, ISO goes up.
yeah, it goes up. Just the ability, I'll say, so I can think of a couple fires in the last year and a half that the engine from this station was on a medical call.
Mm-hmm.
And a fire comes in, so the ladder that has a pump and operate as an engine was first in and they were able to attack the fire. Whereas if we didn't have that, it would be coming from Station 2, so you extend your time, they call it water on fire time, and therefore your likelihood of having a bigger fire, more damage goes up. So it's kind of a ripple effect.
Yeah. Is there a way, another ignorant question,
Really?
to like, we've got all these great staff that are EMT trained and all that to respond to those medical calls, to not send the engine for those and send like a smaller vehicle instead?
That is an option. The only problem with
Is
that,
that really
not,
acting like EMTs? I mean, they're,
the only problem with that is, and unless, I'll say this, unless you can staff it properly, because if you cross staff, the problem is you're going to be out, so your alternative response vehicle, whatever that may be, is going to be out on a call. Well, then your engine or your ladder truck sitting at the station empty with no people on it,
yeah.
and you catch a fire. I worked for a department, my first career department, where we had a rescue truck and a ladder truck, and we cross-staffed, the guys in the rescue truck cross-staffed. I have gone back, I have driven an emergency back to the station many times to pick the ladder truck up to go to a fire.
Yeah.
And it's finally, the city of Chattanooga did it. They had, I think, 5 alternative vehicles they were gonna put in stations. And because of staffing, they finally got rid of them because it was taking their other trucks out of service more often. And not just that, for vehicle extrication, put all the extrication equipment's on, the other trucks. And if you can staff it right, which I'm not asking for more people, but if you want to give me more people, but if it's staffed right, it's a great idea. But cross-staffing doesn't work great.
Yeah.
It's just not a good plan.
But I know it's not ideal, but that fire happens to come along and we don't get a ton of them. You're coming from the other station who is staffed and ready with an engine or ladder. I'm just.
Right. It's all response time. We try to keep our, the national standard is 4.5 minutes, and hours, depending on where it is. There's some places that don't look that far on the map, but.
I'm getting in the back of wind trees.
Yeah, getting in the back of wind, even from station 2 to the backside of Fox Run is about 5.5, 6 minutes. And because of our terrain and we don't have many straight roads, and it's a challenge. Carriage Hill, Hidden Brook, it just takes a while to get. If you look at Middle Creek, that's almost exactly this station and Station 2 can get to Middle Creek almost the exact time. And you think, man, Station 2 ought to be able to get there. It's just one road, but because the way it goes, it's just.
Yeah.
But fire flow is the big reason.
Okay, we've gotten far afield from the item at issue, which is fine. It was a good discussion. I appreciate it.
Don't get me talking about
I
fire.
think it might be, interesting for us to have
Well, I would-
somebody talk about ISO sometime. going
Oh,
forward, 'cause
sure.
that's an interesting
I'd be even
topic.
happy to have Mark Alley is our local or our regional ISO representative. He's actually based out of Cleveland.
Yeah.
I like to talk fire stuff. He loves to talk ISO stuff.
Yeah, we should consider that for a meeting
It's-
down the
it's-
road.
Yeah.
It's informative.
But I should say also just to thank you to you and our staff, because it's not all water flow that gets us a 2 rating. It's your preparedness, your training. I'm not an expert on ISO.
No,
I'm fairly certain that this is the case.
It's a combination of fire and
yeah.
water.
So you guys are doing.
I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a combination.
The firefighters put in a tremendous amount of time training, and that training shows that 3 o'clock in the morning when there's a fire, because let's face it, you wake up and you're not. It's all muscle memory and good solid training, or when it's like last week, 90 degrees, and you get the person that's either fallen or lost down the trail, and you spend the next 2 hours trying to get them out. It's I'm proud. I'm lucky. We've got a great fire department, and it's their hard work that I always tell them they make my job easy, because they do a great job.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric.
Next item on the agenda. Pump station need, no, wait, yes.
Yeah.
Pump station needs.
Right.
But I've got water purchase, is the next thing on here, so.
Good evening.
Hello.
Okay.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening and discuss some of our needs and some of our happenings within the water department. I guess first off, with the pump station, we'll start with a project that I came into. It is pretty far along in the development. It's gone through the planning, and we're pretty in need of a new pump down at the pump station. We have a 250 gallon per minute pump that we would like to replace and have been planning to replace with a 670 gallon per minute pump. We'll do some modifications to the soft start and engineer it so that it's the most efficient, energy and cost efficient pump that we can do. We're in need a little sooner than I had planned. A couple of weeks ago we had failure on a bearing on our pump. Luckily it was the pump we planned on replacing. I think that is our oldest pump. It was installed in 1949, if my records are correct. So we've got our usage out of it. It's been good to us, but we'd be better suited with a larger pump.
What's a useful life of a new pump, typically?
Well, I'd love to get another 60 years out of it.
Yeah, I know.
They don't make things like they used to. 1949.
Yeah. No, they really do. I think easily 30, 40 years out of a pump is, with proper maintenance, you're going to have maintenance that goes into that. But as a whole, pumps do last a significant time period. They have good lifespan. Part of that, like I said, the design's been completed. Our estimates are roughly a year old on pump cost and labor. Spoke with my engineers to get kind of an updated ballpark. We're thinking somewhere in between the $160,000 to $200,000 price tag. We have had $300,000 budgeted for this project. It was in the 2022 budget, 21-22 budget, and didn't get accomplished. So we are looking to do that very soon. And I will say this is eligible, and I plan to seek non-competitive grant money from the state infrastructure grant program. That would eliminate about 65% of that cost, but we would only be responsible for 35%. So I do plan to pursue that, as well as looking kind of at another need that we have down there. It is our sole source. And one thing that really jumped out at me is we don't have a backup generator down there. So if we were to lose power, we would lose the ability to pump. I've discussed with our neighbor, Tennessee American Water. I know they have 5 large generators on trailers that are mobile and have been used for neighboring utilities in the past after emergencies. So moving forward, for the time being, until we could look down the line to get our own, I would like to engineer this pump to have a switchgear installed that will work with one of their portable generators. That way, if something happened and EPB couldn't provide us power, we would be able to get a generator out there. It would be as easy as plugging in a pigtail, throwing a switchgear, and we would be able to run this pump. And like I said, this would be, one of the largest pumps we had down there, so it would provide significant water.
So we currently don't have a generator at all in the power line?
We do not.
And that would be additional to what you're talking about.
I would, yeah, it makes
Well,
sense
it's
to
just
me.
a switch gear, we're not gonna buy
Right.
a generator, we're gonna
Right.
get that when we need it.
Right, so in order to replace a 250 gallon per minute pump with a 670 gallon per minute, there's gonna be, electrical upgrades that need to be done. So while they're in there, it makes sense to me. Let's add a switch gear that's compatible with their generators. I've spoken with them, they're more than happy to assist us on, the technical specifications of the generators, what that switch gear needs to be rated for, make sure that it's compatible with the pump and motor. So they're very willing to work with us to assist us until, we can make further improvements in that pump station, because that is going to be needed down the line.
This isn't the same, so on our ARP allocation funding opportunities, we have a water pump replacement line item.
That is it.
This is the same one.
It's the
So on
same
this,
one. This is not additional.
okay, it's 122,500.
Okay, I think that,
What's that, our 35%?
Is that the,
I think that
subtracting
is,
the grant or something?
I think that is the grant responsible, I think that's the funding that we would be responsible for,
Okay.
worst case scenario.
So, I remember this from like a year ago when the ARP funds were announced, that we requested, I guess, Adam and Stormwater to come up with like a list of different projects, because at that time, that was one of the very clear uses.
Mhm.
I remember in my head something called Pump Station 2.1 million. So is there further work that needs to be done over time, and how do you see that happening?
So, yeah, the $2 million, that is a new pump station.
Like totally,
That is a totally new pump
so
station.
that's the building, or is that the pumps to other pumps too?
We would, plan is to take this new pump with us, and make, since it is so new, but that is a completely new pump station. The existing structure, that was a living quarters, we'll call it a house, it will be demoed, and the plan was to use the footprint of that structure as the new pump station site. We would carry over this new pump and VFD and equipment into the.
And that wasn't gonna be like a second line up the mountain or anything like that?
It's not a second line, it would tie into the existing.
And in your opinion, if we can solve the interconnection issue, do we need to be worrying about a second line?
I'll feel much better once the interconnect is done, which it's going to happen, I'm confident. We're gonna get that buttoned up, and this is the best opportunity that we've had with what's available for us. I will say, when I speak of non-competitive grant money, that is separate from the ARP money that we've already received. I want y'all.
Yeah.
So
we would, and is it a requirement to use ARP funds to be eligible for the non-competitive, or not that we wouldn't, just?
So the initial ARP funding it's not required to use that to cover it.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Do you know if the $2.1 million included a new pump or not?
So it is my understanding the $2.1 million is the building and the entirety of multiple pumps.
Okay, so we would be taking one hack at that issue.
Yeah.
With this pretty big one.
And
Of course, that
2.1 is
2.1 is probably
well
$3 million now.
Yeah.
But we're at least addressing one of the issues.
Yeah, good.
For that, okay. All right.
So when you apply for those non-competitive grants, in general, what's the turnover? Like, how long does it take from the time you submit your request to you find out if you get the allocation? Is it
It will
fast?
it will be quick, yes. And and with this project, what I started looking for, projects that I came in, this money was, available as soon as I came in. So I was a little bit behind the 8 ball, not not being here and planning for these ahead of time. So I looked for opportunities on projects that were already in the work. This one made great sense. It's, it's amplified by the fact that we just had the pump that was going to be replaced just going down. I don't want to put additional money into fixing that, if it makes sense to replace it. And so I'd rather, seek out that. If we can do it now for 35% of what that cost was initially planned for, and that is why I did the math. That is why the budget went down from 300,000 to
122.
122. I left myself some wiggle room for inflation there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just made sense now to go after that and pursue it. So it is a quick turnaround. We do have to get our application in before November 1st.
Okay.
What do you need from us to get the grant move forward?
Aside from your support, and as we, as needed, I'm working with CTI. I gave them, the heads up as soon as the pump went down to get everything updated so that we can apply for this. We've paid them a substantial amount of engineering money, and I know everyone, I'm sure y'all are aware, we, allocated funds to engineer this project last year. So I think we've spent somewhere in the neighborhood of around $20,000 to engineer this pump replacement project. So we need to jump on it now before the opportunity for the grant.
You have my support.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, you have our support. So
Thank you.
we'd like to keep it on the radar, keep working on it. So let us know what you need from us, if anything, or what your next steps are.
Well, and that's why we wanted to talk about it today, is to get the ball rolling and keep y'all as the water board all informed. So,
Thank you. We have a couple of other water.
we do, and I'll get right into it. So back in April, discussions between myself and Tennessee American Water began. We have in our contract a minimum purchase agreement. In 2001, we did not meet that purchase agreement requirement. We fell short, I believe, a little over 14 million gallons. That's due to efficiency. We have done a much better job of leaks. We've changed the way we pump. So we're running a more efficient program. It's reflected in not only the water we're pumping, but also the electricity costs. We've saved thousands of dollars there as well. I have discussed with them, and they are willing to amend our existing contract and lower that minimum purchase agreement by roughly 23 million gallons a year.
Was the minimum, will we still have to purchase those 14 million? Or was there just a fee?
So we did incur, for the 14 million that we did not pump, we did incur a fee of $1.38 per thousand. So that works out to roughly a penalty of, I think it was $16,000. Give or take, somewhere between $16,000 to $19,000. Again, they are willing to work with us on payment plans for that, so that it's not necessarily due in one lump sum, but we could spread that out through a monthly addition to our normal water bill. But going forward, we need to make sure that doesn't happen again. So like I said, and that minimum, went back to 2018 and looked at that, we were 15 million over that minimum in 2018. In 2019, we were 41 million gallons a year over that minimum. In 2020, as we began to make changes, we were only 9 million. And then last year, we were negative 14 million. So you can see the more efficient water usage. It wasn't that that minimum usage was set too high. It was set in accordance to what we were using. And obviously, in order to get the best rate, there's got to be kind of they've got to base that rate on an assumed consumption amount. So this is about as low as we can go on a minimum usage and still keep that rate.
Okay, so they're not changing the rate.
So they're not changing the rate. They would like to. They're agreed to keep the rate at $1.38 and some odd cents per 1,000 gallons, and extend. So this is just an amendment. It's not a new contract. It's going to amend the existing one through March 1st of 2030.
When did the agreement end?
It is due to end in 2025. So this will be a 5-year
Look,
extension.
where's what they're gonna get out of this? That's what they wanna go
Well,
to 2030.
I was wondering, when I was looking at this, if we're gonna continue to have efficiencies that are gonna lower our water usage even more. Because we're lowering it down to a little bit of more than.
Well, and this gives us, I mean,
Gives us a little bit more.
250 million gallons. You know, it still gives us $10 million of wiggle room. We've seen, you know, a year and a half of, you know, usage data. So I won't say we've bottomed out and can't get more efficient, but you're not going to see big, you know, $10 million, 15 million, or 10 or 15 million gallon changes. We are pretty lean right now.
Can you attribute, I don't know if this sounds dumb, but anyway, but can you attribute any of this efficiency to the new meters that we've installed around the mountain, on the residents, I mean, everywhere? Or is it just electricity?
No, it's not. It's not just electricity. I would attribute a large portion to leak detection and the urgency of repairing leaks. We still, regardless of the meter, we're still pumping the water. The new meters allow us to collect revenue accurately.
Yeah.
So you see an improvement in you're still pumping the same, you just see your collection more accurate.
Yes.
So I wouldn't say that we necessarily
Savings.
pumped less because we had more, you know, accurate meters.
Is there any chance they would waive the penalty if we entered into this extension? I mean, it's a nice extension for them.
It is, and I have really, really worked that and tried. You know, they do have other contracts with other, you know, water utilities that have similar. So I think they're afraid to set a precedent that, you know, they would have to honor. If they did it for us, they'd have to do it for everyone. And I can't speak for
Something
them.
from us though. I mean, it's not like they're just waiving it for no reason. We're agreeing to enter into a longer contract. Now, they're keeping the same rate, and lowering the usage, but I mean, they are, you know, it's just all part of the negotiations, I guess. So it's not like
I
we're
agree.
giving to set the precedent that way.
Is the $1.38 per thousand, that's what we paid for the amount that we didn't use, but is that our normal rate, or is that higher?
That's our number. Yeah, they're only charging.
They're charging,
They're just-
basically, we paid for the water that we use.
Yeah.
So they're extending the $1.38 through 2030. There's no increases built in. Is that, I mean, this is where you rely on your expertise. Like, I don't know what happens necessarily to water rates over time, but with inflation, what it is, you would assume that locking something at an old rate for a longer period would be beneficial. But I also see that maybe they're sitting and putting yourself in their shoes. They're seeing we're about to do an interconnect and have another option for water. So they're locking us in for a long time.
We will, well, and here's another thing, guys. At any point, we can give 12 months notice and be out of this contract.
Okay.
This is, it's not mine. We can say, hey, things have changed, we're not happy, we've got alternative source, for whatever reason, 12 months and we are
That's a
out.
good question, and that's a good answer.
Can they do the same to us?
Yeah, I think it's either way.
Mutual.
Yeah. They're not. They're not ready to, in my opinion.
And so the 16 to 19 penalty,
Yeah.
how's that compared to our average bill?
But we're still gonna be saving money over.
What are we spending on average
Well, let's look.
without a penalty?
I'll say in March, we had a water bill of $18,541, February 18,000, January 20. So, if you.
So it's like a month worth of.
It is. It's like an extra month.
Do we have the funds to pay? I assume the financing options will cost.
There's no
Extra.
interest on it.
Oh, okay.
It's
No,
spread
they're
around
just-
over
they're-
time.
Okay.
I mean, there's no downside to spreading. And-
Yeah, all right. Sorry, that's where I was.
I mean, if they'll waive it or cut it down, that'd be nice. Can or dash.
Trust me, I have asked and asked.
Yeah.
What hurts us is we signed the agreement, and it's plain as day in the contract what we agreed to.
We were gonna buy that much,
Yeah, and it, like I said, when that contract was signed, it was not an issue. We're still coming out to the good on our electricity costs, obviously, but we're not as good as we would have been without this. But I want to make sure that we don't incur it for 2022, because our numbers, still match what they looked like last year. So if we trend like we expect to, we'll be under that 273,750 again. So we need to try to get.
And you think the 23 million reducing the minimum, is it reducing it by 23 or is it 23 below where we ended up?
No, it's reducing the minimum by 23. It still gives us roughly, it's about 10 million below where we ended last year, so it gives us about 10 million gallons.
Do you think that we'll run into that as we fix some more mains?
I do not. Well, that's almost a million gallons a day.
And the town's growing, I mean, you would think.
And
we'd get more water usage.
We're very
But
It's
efficient.
not growing
on
that
it.
much, but it is growing.
I think as people go back to working in offices and they're not flushing the toilet in there all day, and that's small, but you might see it drop just from people's behaviors of being up here on Mountain Homeless.
But
We
saw a
had
drop
room
while
we had
were
room to
on.
grow for industry, and we had
That was
industrial.
driven by proactive maintenance, maybe, and we may have another one coming. But if this is as low as the.
Yeah, and to your point, we had a lot of folks working from home, I'm sure, as compared to heading off into the office and using, their day-to-day water or their daily water down, outside of our territory. So, I don't see $10 million, $9 to $10 million efficiency change.
Okay.
But I am sure that they're willing to sit down with us and discuss this further. They've been a good partner through this, so they're open to, meet with us and discuss at any point. So if that's something that I would like to do as a water board, I'm sure we can get them up here and discuss it further. Just wanted y'all to be aware.
Sounds like a good deal to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I wish they'd lowered more. But
I do
just-
too,
I'm
but
just
don't let
interested.
let the good get in the way of the great, so.
Yeah.
All right. On this, do we need to have a meeting with them to do this?
No, I think we need a resolution to amend the contract as it is.
to approve the amended contract.
And authorize the town manager to make
Yeah.
decisions on. So yes, we will need that.
All right.
So if we can, discuss as we need to and get it on our next meeting, that'd be wonderful.
All right, let's please do that.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Well, the last thing I know, I got one other item here, and that's we're looking at a water leak adjustment program. Currently, we're about the only utility that's still trying to manage this in-house. What this is basically an adjustment policy. It's insurance. The way that they recommend and that I would like to see this work is customers would be enrolled in the program. They would have the option to opt out. There would be a small fee, a small line item, less than $2 a month added to their bill for water leak insurance. And what this would do is if they had a qualifying leak, it would cover the additional cost of the water bill. This helps both the customer and the utility. The utility doesn't have to eat that cost. And the customer who, under their current plan, is still roughly on, footing the bill for about 65–70% even after the adjustment, because we still have to cover what we paid for. We have to cover the cost to pump it up the mountain. The plan is to break even on that, so the utility's not losing money, the customers, paying a little less than they had. This would give them the opportunity to, pay that $1.80, $1.85, whatever the fee turns out to be, but it allows them to pay that monthly, and gives them a greater insurance. Right now, it's limited to service line under our policy. I think most of these that I've looked at, but the two that I've looked at have offered in-home and appliance, toilet leaks, things that we don't right now cover.
So it'd be anything and then basically adjust them back to their regular average bill or something like that?
So they would have to have a minimum of, I think it's 200% increase on their bill. So they're not going to make adjustments for, $15 here and there. One of these options also offers 2 claims per year versus our 1. So it's better coverage, more expansive coverage, twice as many claims. They also have the option of purchasing additional water line repair insurance as well as sewer line repair insurance through these groups. So that means not only is their leak fixed and the bill gets adjusted, but they also get their plumbing fee covered. So the cost to actually fix it. And that would be again optional if they wanted to opt into it. If they wanted to purchase sewer leak repair, they wanted to purchase water line repair, they could opt into that. That's something that I can't offer them right now.
I saw Hickson had something like that.
Hickson has it, Walden has it, Northwest has it, American has it. Every pretty much surrounding municipality and water utility offers.
It makes a lot of sense.
What's to stop us from giving the option of $1.85, collecting it ourselves, taking the insurance company's profit out of it, and we provide the same program from a fund?
And that's a great question. That's a question I had.
Not to create more work.
No. If you notice on the memo, I placed I placed that on there as an option. I reached out to Impasse and got referred to legal and the way it's written. And I want to stress that this program is not a moneymaker for the water utility. We are not doing this to make profit off of it. We're only offering a service, to cover the water leaks and help our customers. And part of that is we're not allowed to profit. And I can read you.
Well, it doesn't.
We're not allowed to do it under the state's ruling.
I would
Okay.
think that an
But what
insurance
about-
company is able to offer like a lower rate based on the volume they have, whereas if we do it,
So the question would be whether there's like a different risk profile over 3,200 properties or whatever. Which I would say you got a significant sample size there. There's probably not anything special about Signal Mountain that causes more leaks.
no, I'm
So
just
you're pretty
saying.
diversified from like a company that has that many insured healthcare individuals is probably going to look at self-insuring.
Mhm.
Because it'll be a lot less expensive for the employees and for the company. Now, what about like, we don't even have to do it as a fund, but as an option, if we said, okay, we're adding $1.85 to everybody's bill, and we're just changing our policy. And our policy is that we will back up your leaks and your bills in the same way. And then we're adjusting that $1.85 to what insurance companies are doing as it increases over time to make sure that we're on average going to cover our costs as leaks happen.
We, I guess, have history to determine how much we spend
Mhm.
on leak adjustments and can determine if we
Yeah.
can offer a competitive rate compared to insurance.
And maybe that's just not even
But if we're not,
worth the hassle, but I also think there's maybe a bigger hassle on the finance team to have to track who's on, what plan are they on, what.
That was like, that would be.
Jim and I sat down and tried to run the numbers. We're calculating the time that we're, putting our staff into work with this. We're looking at, in order to get quotes from these other vendors, I had to go back to 2017, 2018 and get the data. So we looked at that. But NTAS's answer was that the language, the statutory language limits the utility to charges, rates, and fees for the actual cost of providing services, and the utility does not have authority to offer an insurance service or product. Thus, in my opinion, the municipal
We already
utility
are offering insurance.
well, you're just basically saying.
It's just
we
not as big of
can't
a
charge
cost.
a fee for it. We're not charging a fee for it.
I think what Andrew's
That's-
saying is we just adjust our rates to account for the,
Or even just, you can call it
The
a service
leak
fee,
adjustment.
you don't have to.
well,
190, 185.
And we could do that. We're not allowing folks to opt out.
That's right,
At
I
that-
think people
at
have a
that
problem with that.
time.
Yeah, that's
At least
what I
in
would-
this way, if they want to opt out and do not want this service, they can. So we allow some flexibility there. And if someone wants to take ownership of that,
But
that
here's
would
the
be up to
thing,
them.
so you opt out, right?
You're
You
out.
opt
not-
out and you get the bill, what are we doing?
Yeah. If
Are
you
we
get
making
opt,
them pay, or are we
Yes.
still doing the same
No.
semi-insurance ones?
no, if they opted out, they
See,
would
I
not be
think you're
eligible.
gonna run into horrible situations there that.
if there's claims, if you have an insurance company that's doing this and somebody has a claim, does the insurance company take care of that? So is that reducing the burden on our staff to have an insurance company handle this rather than us?
It will definitely, and there'll still be some portion of it that we have to assist, as far as going back and getting the previous history for the billing, so that they can get an average and establish what their average bill should be. But yes, it's going to take, because they're going to call, they're going to, even if they opt out, they're going to opt out through the insurance company. Any claims are going to be called through the insurance company. The insurance company will just reach out and say, hey, I need, X data for, this customer. So it will help us there. And we are allowed and encouraged to include that time that's spent into the fee. So I've heard anywhere from as little as 20 cents to as much as $1, which $1 seems significantly higher than what I would need for administrative fee.
After looking at those options, what's your recommendation?
If it were me and I were the customer, I would pursue the program. I like the fact that it is optional and you can opt out. Also like the coverage that it provides, and the fact that
You get 2 adjustments if needed, it covers more, and you're really, I mean, one claim is going to probably pay for a lifetime of the insurance program.
Do they have to meet, do customers have to meet any kind of deductible or anything when they file a claim?
There's no deductible. And this is something, if we decide to move forward with it, we can compare and get really down into the nitty gritty. But I didn't want to pursue any further without discussing with the water board if this is something that, y'all felt like would be beneficial. I certainly do, and I would be excited to opt into it if I were a customer.
Would we offer any of the varying levels, or would it just be like, hey, this is the price?
You can absolutely get varying levels. We can go up, and I hate to, the prices that I did get are specific to us off of our history, but we can get up to $3,000 coverage per claim, and it's 4 cents more than $2,500. The minimum's $500 insurance claim, and that's about $1.30 a month, less than $3,000. So you're talking $500 for less than $1.50 versus $3,000 for less than $1.75.
So okay, that's good. I like it.
So for 40 cents, you can get $2,500 more a month in coverage. So it would make sense to me to kind of shoot for that top tier.
And leave it up to you to figure out like what's administratively if you're offering multiple levels, it's just paying.
Yeah, we would kind of need to establish what our coverage would be and have a blanket.
So that would be the insurance company. I mean, that would, I don't think we
Well,
had
but-
10 levels that would change.
But they have to put it on the bill, the right amount, and when you change it, this level or that level, and so like I'm just saying, I don't want to be ignorant to go offer 50 solutions and make it really complicated for Jennifer and team and Matt to administer the right fee to the customer.
It's my understanding that they ask that we establish the service. So if we want to offer $3,000 worth of coverage to our customers, then everyone gets $3,000 worth of coverage. And again, it's
Okay.
40 cents a month is the difference between $3,000, or roughly 40 cents between $3,000 or $500.
So we're not saying we're gonna offer them 5 tiers.
Sorry.
We're saying you get this one coverage.
We would pick.
Hickson had 2. They had like the one you talked about where they'll take care of your plumbing issues, which was like $7 a month, and then they had one that was like $1.50, which is what you're talking about.
And we might have that ability down the road if that's something we're really interested in offering to. We're in the infancy of this. I wanted to get some ballpark. I want to get some accurate, but we're not committing anything. I wanted y'all to know where we stood on it before we went any further.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, and if we want to bring anyone in to just hear their policies and what they can offer us, we can absolutely do that in an open forum. Our customers can, are welcome to sit in and ask any questions they have as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we have COVID policy, reimbursements and guidelines.
So, what we currently have is a resolution from 2018 declaring the state of emergency within the corporate limits of the town of Signal Mountain, Tennessee, and establishing associated protocols and authorizations for municipal operations. We have not had anything updated since then. There has been changes in the COVID policy overall from the federal government in quarantine and CDC guidelines, recommendations, and as it currently stands, in the memorandum about the COVID-19 policy updates, I need to get clarification on what the quarantine and reimbursement policy is. Based on that resolution of 2020-18, it says, be it further resolved that until hereafter revoked, the town manager is authorized to alter work schedules, staffing levels, operation of town departments, employee leave practices, billing practices, and make purchases as authorized, notwithstanding any municipal purchasing guidelines, ordinance, or personnel policy to the front. So I think we do need to update the COVID policy, because we have still some signage up in front, and we have the screen up front talking about the mask requirements and the social distancing, only one person in the office at one time. And so, and then also just the employee reimbursement policy. The federal tax credits ended in September 2021. So we had been, and currently to date, this year, in the last 2 months, we had 4 employees out for COVID in the last 2 months. And so we paid them a total of 73 hours for their time off while they were at home quarantined with COVID.
How many hours?
With COVID or with exposure?
With COVID, out for COVID,
How many hours did you say?
73 hours total.
Well, I think we need to, Harry, would we rescind the resolution? Would we do a new resolution saying that we're no longer under a state of?
I don't think this one would be rescinded. I think we would just have a new resolution that just says, that just removes the town manager's authority to alter work schedules, et cetera. What's in that last paragraph, just remove that.
Okay. State that the state of emergency is over. And
Yeah, no longer
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you addressing this because it is something we need to clean up. So, we definitely need to go forward and do that resolution.
Okay.
As far as the COVID policy, do you?
So that, we also attached the quarantine and isolation guidelines based on the CDC. They still recommend isolating for 5 days after a positive COVID test or COVID symptoms. And they're also requiring a 5-day quarantine for employees testing positive or those with direct exposure.
But it's different if you have
Unless you're
vaccinations or not.
Or have had COVID in the last 90 days or something.
Yeah. You don't have to quarantine if you were exposed, but you're up to date on your vaccinations. It looks like.
Right, so as it stands right now, if there's a COVID exposure or someone has had COVID, you're still requiring them to quarantine at home
Okay.
and paying them for it.
Do we know what other municipalities are doing currently for, exposure and paying out the 5 days now that the tax credit's gone?
Mm-hmm.
Are they still doing it, or are they saying, okay, that's just use your sick time for that, standard sick time?
That, I don't have a direct answer. Katie, did you ever happen to get some of that information? No, that's okay. That'll be something that I can look into to see what the other municipalities are doing. But at this point, with the tax credits ended back in September 2021, this should fall under sick leave.
Right. Yeah, and I think we need to follow the CDC guidelines in terms of quarantining and staying home, but obviously, if you're up to date on your vaccinations or you've had COVID, you don't really have to quarantine or stay home unless you have symptoms. So I don't know if we're requiring people to stay home if they've been exposed currently. Are we?
Currently, yes.
Yeah, and it looks like we don't have to do that unless they're not vaccinated.
Right.
Um, And the signage, I don't think we need it. We took out the mask requirement in town hall some time ago. So we wouldn't need to have signs about masks.
Right. Okay.
I don't think we need to tell people that masks are optional. If they want to wear a mask, they can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So your recommendation is to stop paying for the time off and to start requiring sick leave
Yes.
usage. Okay.
Yeah, and to remove the signage
Yeah.
in the town hall area, and just to address this resolution with the state of emergency, so we can clean that up and kind of get that resolved. But, and then to follow the current CDC guidelines for exposure requirements and testing and what have you. But
Is
to
there
have,
so the 5-day requirement, let's just say, because I'm thinking like, okay, I'm an employee, I've got X number of sick days. Now you're kind of like, I feel fine, but I was exposed. Now I gotta use 5 days. Is there a way to return sooner than that with tests or something like that? I know that that's a thing in some private organizations. I don't know if that's a thing.
Are you able to return earlier if you're wearing a mask? I don't think you are, but
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm at. I just want
if you're not up to date on vaccinations, you have to stay home for at least 5 full days. I don't think there's, I mean, according to the CDC, I don't think there's a change in that policy.
to, okay.
I support your recommendations.
I do too.
okay, thank you, and then we'll draft up a new resolution to address the state of emergency resolution.
All right, anything else on that from anyone? Our last item on the agenda is scheduled for check signing. That's something I asked, I know we just kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
A while back, and we had done a schedule, and where everybody was coming in for a month and signing checks on Thursday, I think it was. Which, you know, is nice, because you get a chance to see what's going on, and I think we should
We need to definitely
start
do
that
that.
again. So. we can-
At least up until November, because it's an election year.
Yeah.
Suzanne's like, I called December.
Yeah, that's right, we should, those who are on the ballot need to be the months now, and first few months. So, I mean, we can choose the months now if you want, or,
So really, we've got July. This month we could call the 30th July.
yeah, I'm not going anywhere in July, so I don't mind taking July.
I don't mind taking August.
I'll take September.
I'll take October. But then I guess Elizabeth November, so maybe she needs October.
Okay, you switch with her. July, who was August?
Me, Nikki.
And you were September, that's
Mhm.
next month. We're gonna give Elizabeth, she should have been here.
She kind of remember. She has to come in on Thanksgiving Day.
That'll show.
She's gonna be here alone.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so, well, thanks, you're due in November, so you have to come down. Thanks.
Oh, wait, no, that's me. Yeah, that's right.
Right,
Serves you right.
because we got Elizabeth for October,
October,
okay,
yes.
and January, November.
Yeah, so, this month.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
maybe we'll just, is there one more Thursday?
I
to
guess
sign
it's,
checks?
yeah, technically the 30th.
There's one more.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
I'll just ask her to come in on the 30th, and then I'll start in
And
January.
anytime that like somebody's unavailable, you can always email Elaine and then she can find one of the other.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, or we can do that, we can share
I'm
responsibility.
living across the street too, so.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's, I have to admit, sometimes I forget, but I'll mark my calendar and try to
Like you
remember.
don't alert your phone.
I know. But, I usually come in early too, if that's okay. I don't know what time y'all, get here, but, cause I'll just come in before I go to work, so probably 7:30. Is that too early? That's okay.
I usually do them on Wednesday, so they'll be ready for you.
Okay, all right. All right, good deal. Well, that was the easiest thing we did. Oh, we have,
That's for you to sign after.
oh, okay. It says all council need to sign.
We all sign.
Oh, all right.
It's just, and now it's ready for your signature.
Thank you. All right, so we're down to the manager's report. Anything to report?
Well, I did want to address the fire hydrants and the PSI pressure and the hypo testing.
All right, thanks.
And I know Eric talked about that as part of the flow rate that the firefighters go out and they flush the fire hydrants and they do the pressure testing on the fire hydrants. And we currently do not have any fire hydrants that are black, that are below the PSI that is required to be put out by the fire hydrants. So we're gonna post a fact page about the fire hydrants and the pressure testing and when they're done. And so that way we can just let our citizens know that we're safe and we have the ability with our fire hydrants to handle the fires. And so,
And when you put that together, like how do you plan on disseminating it?
putting it out on our Facebook page,
Good.
and then also having it up on the screen that's up in the front lobby as you walk in, it'll be up there as well.
Good.
And so just trying to get that information out as publicly as possible. So to just give our citizens a peace of mind that our fire hydrants are safe and that our firefighters know where they are because they personally go out there and they flush them themselves. So I liked Eric's rationale behind that because in the middle of the night, if they have to go to a fire, they know where the fire hydrant is. Like that fast in muscle memory. So I did want to bring that to your attention that our fire hydrants are putting out enough pressure, and they have been pressure tested. So we'll just get that information out.
Good.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
Nothing.
Okay. I remember when the fire hydrants had to be, there were a number of them in town that didn't work. In Old Town, I may remember that. I remember down at Missy Campbell's house, there was a fire hydrant that didn't have any pressure. That may have taken us from our 5 to our 3, fixing those fire hydrants. Okay, good to know they all work perfectly. Is there any other communications and reports from the mayor and council or other business that we didn't take care of earlier in our special meeting? Okay. Our tentative agenda is set for July 11th, and we are adjourned. Thanks.